Ehis Omorege was a young man from Benin, tall and broad-shouldered, with the kind of confidence that came from years of hustling and surviving the chaos of life. He was a tech consultant, the kind that walked into rooms with crepe suits and a laptop bag slung casually across his shoulder. People admired his brilliance, but few knew how much discipline it took for him to build a name in a city where thousands competed daily. Chimamanda Okafor, on the other hand, was Igbo, born and raised in Enugu, but Lagos had been her home for the last 5 years. She was an event curator, elegant and striking, with a voice that carried both warmth and firmness. She had an eye for details and a stubborn streak that made her both admired and feared by colleagues. People often said, if you want something done in Lagos, give it to Chimamanda. It was at a tech and creative industries summit in Victoria Island that their paths first crossed. The event hall buzzed with entrepreneurs, innovators, and investors. Chimamanda, dressed in a simple white jumpsuit and heels, was coordinating the guest list when she noticed a man approach the registration desk. His smile was easy. His tone was calm. "Good morning. Please, I think my name should be on the list." "Omorege Ehis," he said. She scanned the list quickly, then looked up. "Yes, Mr. Omorege, you are on the panel for the afternoon session." He gave a small nod. "Thank you. And you are?" She smiled politely. "Chimamanda, event coordinator." He chuckled lightly. "Nice. You don't sound stressed, considering this kind of event can drain someone." She raised her brow. "I hide it well, but by the end of today, I'll probably be too tired to walk." That was their first conversation. Simple, professional, but something about the way their eyes lingered spoke louder than words. Later that evening, after his panel discussion, Ehis found her near the stage, giving last-minute instructions to technicians. He walked up to her again. "You did well today," he said. She glanced at him, brushing her hair away from her face. "I should be the one saying that. Your panel was engaging. You made cybersecurity sound like a love story." He laughed. "Maybe because I had the right audience." It was in that moment that Lagos conspired in their favor. Numbers were exchanged, conversations flowed, and within weeks, dinners turned to late-night phone calls. Soon, the city felt smaller for the two of them. Ehis loved her stubborn fire. She loved his calm reasoning. Where she rushed, he slowed her down. Where he hesitated, she pushed him forward. Their friends teased them, saying, "Na so una go do wedding o." And indeed, it didn't take long before wedding talks began. By the time Ehis and Chimamanda had been together for close to a year, their love had grown into something that was no longer a secret. Friends knew, colleagues whispered, and both families were already curious. But in Nigeria, love is never just between two people. It is between two families, two cultures, and often two worlds. Ehis family, the Omoreges, were proud Benin people from Edo State. His father, Chief Omorege, was a retired civil servant who still carried the weight of tradition on his shoulders. His mother, Madam Janet, was a trader in Benin City, famous for her pepper soup and her sharp tongue. Chimamanda's family, the Okafors, were from Enugu. Her father, Mr. Okafor, was a businessman who had worked his way up from trading spare parts in Onitsha to owning warehouses across the east. Her mother, Ngozi, was a school principal, a woman who believed in discipline, prayer, and never letting another woman take what her daughter had worked for. When the families first met, tension danced in the air. The Omoreges wanted tradition observed to the last detail. The bride price negotiations, the kola nut rituals, the endless list of items. The Okafors, on the other side, insisted on showcasing their daughter's value in grand. The day of traditional introduction in Enugu, the hall was filled with laughter, music, and the sharp smell of palm wine. Uncles from both sides debated loudly, aunties whispered, and cousins stole meat from the trays when nobody was watching. Bini people like to price everything low, one Igbo uncle grumbled. And Igbo people like to turn marriage into business, a Bini elder countered. But amidst the banter, there was joy. Ehis, wearing a deep red abada with coral beads, looked every bit the groom. Chimamanda, glowing in her George wrapper and blouse, looked like royalty. When she knelt to give him palm wine, their eyes met again, the same way they had at the summit in Lagos. It was a silent promise that no family politics could break them apart. The church wedding in Abuja was even more grander. The city buzzed with luxury cars and designer outfits. The hall was draped in white and gold, with chandeliers showing light over the crowd. Chimamanda walked down the aisle in a gown that shimmered under the lights, her veil trailing like a whisper. Ehis, standing tall in his tailored suit, could barely hide his smile. When the pastor declared them husband and wife, the hall erupted in cheers. Cameras flashed, drums rolled, and guests spread naira notes until the floor glittered with money. Their honeymoon in Zanzibar was straight out of a movie. White beaches, candlelight dinners, endless laughter. On Instagram, friends tagged their photos with captions like couple goals and love in its purest form. For the first year, their marriage was a dream. They moved into a sleek duplex in Lekki, painted in soft creams and grays. Every corner smelled of fresh paint and promises. They cooked together, laughed out movies, and sometimes stayed up until dawn, talking about their future. But love, as Lagos will tell you, is not only about laughter, it's about patience. And patience is tasted when the finish begins to creep in. A year after the wedding, the shine of love began to dim. At first, it was small things. Ehis leaving his socks in the living room, Chimamanda forgetting to switch off the water heater, or the argument about who should take out the trash. Those were the kind of things newlyweds laughed about. But laughter soon turned into complaints, and complaints became quarrels. One rainy Saturday morning, Chimamanda stood in the kitchen, her head tied in a scarf, wearing one of his oversized t-shirts. She was stirring a pot of egusi soup when he walked in. "Babe," he said, "why is the house so stuffy? Can't you at least open the windows?" She frowned. "And why can't you open it yourself? Must I do everything?" He paused, staring at her. "What do you mean everything? Am I not the one that washed your car yesterday? Or do you think marriage means the man should be your houseboy?" Her voice sharpened. "So because you washed car once, you want to use it and rub it on my face forever?" The soup boiled over, hissing angrily on the gas cooker. It was as if the pot understood the heat rising between them. That was how it started. Petty fight, each word sharper than the last. By a year and few months, their quarrels were louder. Neighbors began to notice. The security guard would shake his head each time he heard their voices echoing through the compound. "See as fine couple they scatter every day," he muttered once to a gateman next door. One Sunday evening, Ehis came home late from a client meeting. Chimamanda was waiting, arms folded. "Ehis, where are you coming from? I called you 10 times. "Work," he said flatly, dropping his laptop bag on the couch. "At 10 p.m.? Do you think I am stupid? See, no start this drama tonight, I beg." Her voice rose. "Drama? I am your wife, and I have every right to ask where you are coming from." And just like that, their living room became a stage. Voices clashed, accusations flew, and that night, neighbors gathered at their balconies, listening. Some shook their heads, others whispered, "Na so it dey start, this marriage no go last oo." The final straw came at a family gathering in Benin. They had traveled for his cousin's wedding. In the middle of the reception, Chimamanda accused him of flirting with a bridesmaid. He snapped back, and before anyone could stop them, they were shouting in front of guests. Plates clattered, the music stuttered, and all eyes turned to them. Madam Janet, his mother, held her head in shame. Ngozi, Chimamanda's mother, whispered furiously, "Chimama, stop these embarrassments." But they did not stop. Love had become war, and finish had finally entered their home. By the time they returned to Lagos, the marriage that had begun with roses now smelled of smoke. When a Nigerian marriage begins to shake, families never fold their arms. They rush in, armed with advice, tradition, and sometimes unsolicited judgments. For Ehis and Chimamanda, both families decided it was time to intervene. The first meeting happened in Benin City, at the Omorege family house. Chief Omorege sat at the head of the living room, his walking stick resting beside him. Madam Janet, his mother, sat close, her face stern. Around them, uncles and aunties filled the sofas, while cousins leaned against the walls. On the other side of the room, the Okafors arrived in full force. Mr. Okafo, quiet but watchful. Ngozi already muttered under her breath, and two of Chimamanda's elder brothers, glaring like hawks. The air was thick with tension. Chief Omorege cleared his throat. "We call this meeting because marriage is not a child's play. If you children think you can scatter anyhow, then why did you drag us to Abuja to dance to your wedding?" And he spoke first, his voice tight. "Papa, I have tried, but this woman does not respect me. Every small thing she insults me, even in public." Chimamanda flared up in her seat. "Me? You are the one that humiliates me, Ehis. Do you think I don't see those messages on your phone?" Gaps rippled through the room. "Messages?" Madam Janet snapped. "Which messages again? This girl will not come and spoil my son's name, oh." Ngozi, Chimamanda's mother, sprang forward. "Ah, Janet, don't call my daughter this girl. She is your wife now, whether you like it or not." Voices collided. One uncle shouted, "Let the man talk." Another auntie scolded, "Women of nowadays know they humble again, oh." At one point, his younger cousin tried to crack a joke to lighten the mood, but Madam Janet silenced him with a glare so sharp it could cut yam. For 3 hours, the meeting dragged. Advice poured in. Marriage na endurance race. Two captains no fit dey inside one boat. If you separate, it's a shame on both families. But instead of healing, the words deepened the wound. Each side defended their own, and the couple's voice only grew louder. Finally, Mr. Okafor raised his hand. His voice was calm but heavy. "If they can't live in peace, let them go their separate way. Forcing them will only bring disaster." Silence followed his words. It was the kind of silence that carried finality. The second meeting happened 2 weeks later in Enugu, at the Okafor family house. This time, the atmosphere was no better. Chimamanda's brothers accused Ehis of neglect. Ehis' uncles accused Chimamanda of arrogance. Even the pastor invited to mediate left frustrated, muttering, "These two are not ready to hear God's word." By the end of it all, one thing was clear. The marriage was collapsing. Within a few months, the unthinkable happened. Divorce papers were signed. On social media, their wedding photos quietly disappeared. Friends whispered in shock. Neighbors shook their head. And both families returned home in silence. carrying the shame of a lost story that had once been the envy of many. But destiny, as always, was not finished with EN3M8ES and Chimamanda. The court clerk's voice echoed in the nearly empty courtroom. By mutual agreement, this marriage is hereby dissolved. The sound was sharp, final, like the crack of a whip. EN3M8ES signed the papers with a stiff hand. His jaw tightened. Chimamanda signed too, her face fixed on the floor. The judge barely looked at them. For him, it was just another case. For them, it was their burial of a love they once thought indestructible. Walking out of the courthouse in Ikeja, Lagos, they avoided each other's eyes. No words, no glances, just silence. The kind of silence that screamed louder than arguments. Life apart was not easy. Chimamanda moved into a smaller apartment in Surulere. The walls were faintly painted, but to her, it felt cold. She filled her days with work, event planning, traveling for conferences, smiling at clients. But when night fell, the emptiness pressed on her heart. The bed felt too wide. Her meals too quiet. She often scrolled through her old wedding photos in secret, before quickly deleting them again, as if the memories could bite her. For EN3M8ES, Lekki became a city of ghosts. Every corner of the duplex reminded him of her laughter echoing from the kitchen, her perfume lingering in the hallway, her slippers by the door. He drowned himself in work, moving from one project to another. His colleagues thought he was thriving, but behind his laptop screens, his heart ached. Sometimes late at night, he would open his WhatsApp chat with her and scroll up. The voice note, the I miss you text, the silly emojis, they were still there untouched. He never deleted them. But pride is a heavy chain. Both of them carried it. Neither reached out, neither admitted fault. Meanwhile, the families reacted differently. The Omoreges shook their heads. We warned him not to marry that stubborn Igbo girl. The Okafors signed. We told her men from Edo have too much pride. In truth, both families loved their children, but spoke from pain. The shame of collapsed marriage weighed on them heavily. A month passed. Lagos carried on as it always does, restless and loud. But inside two separate homes, hearts beat slowly, each one longing but refusing to bend. It was during one of those lonely nights that Chimamanda's life shifted again. She had been feeling strange, dizziness in the mornings, sudden fatigue, and a strange craving for roasted corn at midnight. At first, she thought it was stress, but when she finally visited a private clinic in Surulere, the doctor smiled gently. Congratulations, madam. You are 8 weeks pregnant. The words hit her like thunder. Pregnant? She whispered, gripping the edge of the desk. Yes, the doctor confirmed. Do you want us to calculate the expected date of delivery? Her heart raced. 8 weeks pregnant? Which meant the child belonged to EN3M8ES. The same EN3M8ES she had divorced a month ago. She left the clinic in a daze. The city blurred around her. Okadas hung, vendors shouted, but all she could hear was her mother's voice from weeks earlier. Chimama, marriage no be play. If you don't secure your home, another woman will eat your labor. Now, with a life growing inside her, the question loomed, how would she tell EN3M8ES? The news sat heavy on Chimamanda's chest, like a secret she couldn't carry alone. For a week, she walked around with the weight of it, avoiding calls, canceling social outings, and throwing herself into work. But secrets have a way of leaking out, and soon her mother noticed. It was a humid Saturday evening in Enugu when Chimamanda traveled home for a cousin's birthday. The compound was alive with children's laughter, women stirring jollof rice over firewood, and men playing drafts under the mango tree. But Chimamanda was unusually quiet, sitting in one corner with her hands over her stomach. Ngozi, her mother, noticed immediately. She was a woman who could sense her children's trouble before a word was spoken. After the party, she put Chimamanda into her bedroom, closed the door, and folded her arms. "Talk to me, Chimama. What is going on?" At first, Chimamanda shook her head. "Nothing, Mama. I am just tired." Ngozi narrowed her eyes. "Don't lie to me. I carried you in this room for 9 months. I know when something is wrong." Tears welled in Chimamanda's eyes before she could stop them. She sank into the chair, covering her face. "Mama, I am pregnant." For a moment, silence. Then Ngozi's eyes widened, her hand flying to her chest. "Jesus, pregnant?" She leaned forward quickly. "Is it for EN3M8ES?" Chimamanda nodded weakly. Ngozi began to pace the room. "Chineke, so after all the quarrels, after divorce, after court papers, now you are carrying his child?" "I don't know what to do," Chimamanda whispered. "We are no longer together. How do I even tell him?" Her mother stopped pacing and looked at her sharply. "You will tell him, and not just tell him. You will go and fight for your marriage." "Mama, don't mama me," Ngozi cut her off, her voice firm. "Do you know how many women are praying for this child right now? And you think you can sit here and waste time? If you don't go back, another woman will eat your labor. Do you hear me?" Chimamanda wiped her tears. "But Mama, he will think I'm only coming back because of the pregnancy." "Then let him think," Ngozi snapped. "Marriage is not for the proud. If you want to secure your home, you must bend. A woman bends so that her home can stand. Do you understand me?" Her daughter stayed silent, torn between pride and longing. Ngozi knelt in front of her, taking her hands. Her voice softened. "Chimama, listen. I know you are stubborn. I know he is proud. But 2 wrongs can never build a home. This child is God's way of giving you another chance. Don't throw it away. Go and secure your marriage." The words pierced Chimamanda's heart. That night, as she lay awake, she replayed her mother's voice again and again. By morning, she had made a decision. She would return to Lagos. She would face EN3M8ES, and somehow she would tell him the truth. But the question remained, would he even listen? Back in Lagos, the rains had returned. Streets shimmered with puddles, downfall buses splashed muddy water onto pedestrians, and the city carried on with its usual chaos. But for Chimamanda, every sound felt distant. Her mind was consumed on one mission, facing EN3M8ES. She hadn't seen him for a month now. Only once at a supermarket in Lekki had their paths crossed. Their eyes had met, but pride built a wall, and they had walked past each other without a word. The memory haunted her. Now, with a life inside her, she knew avoidance was no longer an option. On a cloudy Wednesday evening, she stood in front of his duplex. Her heart pounded as she gripped the small umbrella in her hand. She hadn't told him she was coming. She couldn't risk him refusing. The gateman, recognizing her, opened the gate without question. She rang the doorbell. Seconds stretched into minutes before the door opened. EN3M8ES stood there, taller than she remembered, wearing a simple black t-shirt and joggers. His eyes widened slightly at the sight of her. "Chim, what are you doing here?" His voice was cautious and guided. She swallowed hard. "EN3M8ES, we need to talk." For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, reluctantly, he stepped aside. "Come in." The house was the same, yet different. The couch they once brought together still sat in the living room, but the air felt colder, the warmth gone. She sat on the edge of the sofa, her palms sweaty. EN3M8ES leaned against the wall, arms folded. "So what is it?" She opened her mouth, then closed it. How could she say it? How could she break the news to him without it either healing or destroying him? Finally, she whispered, "I am pregnant." The words dropped into the silence like stones into water. EN3M8ES blinked. his arms slowly uncrossing. What? What did you just say? I am pregnant, she repeated, her voice trembling. And it's yours. He laughed suddenly, not a joyful laugh, but sharp, bitter. Pregnant? Chimamanda, are you playing with me? After everything, after the divorce. I am not lying, she said quickly, pulling a folded hospital report from her bag. Here, the doctor confirmed it. I am 8 weeks gone, and it's yours. He stared at the paper, but his eyes never truly focused on it. Instead, he looked at her, her face a storm. 2 months gone? He muttered. So while we were signing divorce papers, you were already carrying my child. Tears filled her eyes. I didn't know then. I only found out later. Silence stretched again, heavy and suffocating. Finally, he spoke, his voice low. Do you know what this means, Chim? Do you know the kind of mess we are in? Divorced, yet tied forever. I know, she whispered, but I don't want another woman to be with my child's father, according to what Mama said. He cut her off sharply. Mama said what? This is not about Mama. This is about us. And us, he broke off, shaking his head, anger mixing with something softer. Us is already broken. Her tears spilled. Ehis, please. We don't have to stay broken. This baby can be a second chance. But he turned away, staring out the window, the rain dripping against the glass. His silence was louder than any rejection. That night, she left the house with no answers. But the secret was out, and whether Ehis admitted it or not, his life had changed forever. After Chimamanda's revelation, days turned into weeks, and silence became their companion again. Ehis couldn't sleep. He lay awake at night, staring at the ceiling, replaying her words. I am pregnant, and it's yours. His mind battled between pride and longing, between anger and responsibility. He wanted to deny her, deny the bond, deny the possibility that fate had tied them again. Yet deep inside, he knew that no court document was bigger than his blood. For Chimamanda, the weight was torture. She went through her days half alive, her heart dangling between hope and despair. Every time her phone buzzed, she wished it was him. Every night, she prayed for strength. It was Ngozi, her mother, who finally pushed matter forward. One afternoon, she stormed into Chimamanda's apartment, carried a small bag of fruits. After setting them down, she folded her arms. So how long will you sit here waiting? Until the child is born without a father? Mama, he hasn't called me, Chimamanda whispered. Then call him, Ngozi snapped. A wise woman doesn't wait for pride to kill her home. And so, reluctantly, she dialed his number that evening. The call rang, and for a moment, she thought he wouldn't answer. But then his voice came, deep and tired. Hello? Ehis, it's me. A pause. What do you want, Chim? Her throat tightened. Please, can we talk? One last time. They met at a quiet restaurant in Ikeja. Ehis arrived first, dressed neatly in a navy blue shirt. Chimamanda walked in minutes later, her gown flowing gently over her growing stomach. His eyes flickered there briefly before darting away. They sat. For a while, neither spoke. The clinking of cutlery from the other table filled the silence. Finally, she broke it. Ehis, I know we made mistakes. I know we let the finish enter into our marriage. But please, this child deserves better than 2 broken parents. He exhaled slowly. Chim, do you know how hard it was for me to sign those papers? I loved you. Still do, maybe. But you and I, we tore each other apart. Tears gathered in her eyes. Then let's rebuild. We don't have to be enemies. We can learn respect again. I am willing to bend. I am willing to start over. Her words hit him like a blow. The Chimamanda he knew, stubborn, proud, and furious, was sitting here humbled, pleading. Something in him cracked. He reached across the table, slowly, hesitantly, and touched her hand. If we do this, it won't be easy. No shouting, no insults, no pride. We have to kill finish before it kills us again. She nodded quickly, gripping his hand. I promise, we will learn. For us and for this baby. For the first time in months, they shared a smile. Not wide, not triumphant, but fragile, like the first light after a storm. Their families were shocked when the news reached to them. Some relatives shook their heads. Some of them muttered, saying, going back after disgrace. Others rejoiced, saying, at least the child will not grow without both parents. But for EN3M8ES and Chimamanda, it wasn't about opinions anymore. It was about choice. A choice to rebuild. A choice to respect. A choice to love, not blindly, but wisely. And as Chimamanda rested her head on his shoulder that evening, whispering, thank you for giving us another chance. EN3M8ES closed his eyes and prayed silently that this time around they would last. And so they did. Marriage is not built on love alone. Love is the seed, but respect and patience are the soil. When finish enters, respect dies and love suffocates. Thank you for watching.